Genesis chapter number 1 is an overview of the 6 days of God's creation and of all that is in the tangible universe. Verse 1 is the creation of heaven and earth, so 3 is of the lights. Verse 6 talks about the firmament. Verse 9 of the earth separated from the waters. Verse 11, and the earth made fruitful. Verse 14, the sun, moon, and the stars. Verse 20, the fish and the fowl. Verse 24, of the beasts and cattle. Verse 26, man created in the image of God. And to 29, the appointment of food. Verse 1, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. At an arbitrary moment in the Lord's infinite existence, he forms the celestial abode and the habitable realm of his creation. Verse 2, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Mankind's pending habitation was an uncongealed mass, totally unrecognizable to how it appears at present. Darkness, not created by God, appears to be the natural state of things until his Spirit is brought forth. Verse 3, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. God commands, and it comes to pass. This light is different from sunlight. Verse 4, and God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. Verse 5, and God called the light day, and the darkness called he night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. God appears to indicate that days are to begin and end at sundown. The first, presumably 24-hour day in all of time, is now complete. Verse 6, and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. The firmament is the sky, or first heaven. Verse 7, and God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. There still is, or was at one time, an unknown volume of water above the sky. Verse 8, and God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. Verse 9, and God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. This is the formation of our ocean. The earth is rested upon the waters. As we learn later in Psalms, the water contains the land. This opposes mainstream science, which asserts that the earth ball contains the oceans. Verse 10, and God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas, and God saw that it was good. Verse 11, and God said, let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself, upon the earth, and it was so. Plants are the first physical life forms the Lord chooses to create. Verse 12, and the earth brought forth grass, and herb yielding seed after his kind, and the tree yielding fruit, whose seed was in itself after his kind, and God saw that it was good. Indeed, most would concur that it is a very beautiful habitation that God spoke into existence. Verse 13, in the evening and the morning were the third day. Verse 14, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. The Lord now creates the stars in the night sky. We are to use them to determine signs, time, and seasonal weather patterns. Verse 15, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and it was so. These are lights literally in the sky vault. and not large physical bodies residing at absurd distances from us. Verse 16. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. God forms the sun, the far more radiant orb, to rule the day, and the far less bright moon to shine at night. These are two distinct light sources. The moon does not borrow its light from the sun. Verse 17, and God set them in the firmament of heaven to give light upon the earth. Again, these lights reside in the first heaven, and are not massive globes at an unfathomable range. Verse 18, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. Verse 20, and God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth, and in the open firmament of heaven. Verse 21, and God created the great whales, and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind, and God saw that it was good. Marine life was created before land animals, and concurrently with all flying creatures. All the species sprang forth at his command and didn't evolve over millions of years. Verse 22, and God blessed them, saying, be fruitful, and multiply, and fill the waters in the sea, and let the fowl multiply in the earth. Sea creatures multiply at incredible rates because of God's blessing. Verse 23, and the evening and the morning were the fifth day. Verse 24, and God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after his kind, cattle, and creeping thing, and beast of the earth after his kind. And it was so. All the different land animals were created in no more than a day. We can only stand in awe of this creative force. Verse 25, and God made the beasts of the earth after his kind, and cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good. Verse 26, God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. The words us and our hint at the divine Trinity very early in the Bible. Mankind has been given dominion over all the Lord's previous creations. Verse 27, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. We must assume that our heavenly Creator looks like we do in physical appearance. It seems silly to accentuate the point, but God created only two sexes, which must be emphasized in the perverted culture we live in. Verse 28, and God blessed them, and God said unto them, be fruitful, and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. God has told us, multiply and reign over this earth. We aren't to worship nature and place creatures above mankind. The creation is not to be confused with the Creator. Verse 29, and God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree, in the which is the fruit of a tree, yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. The word meat in the King James simply means food. By the Lord's decree, we have access to all plants and their extracts. It is against God's law that governments choose to restrict our access to what the divine Creator has given for our use. Verse 30, and to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat, and it was so. Verse 31, and God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. God made all of his creation in 6 literal days. In conclusion, Genesis chapter 1 is the general summation of God's creation. This chapter completely refutes the mainstream scientific Big Bang theory of how things came about. It also contradicts consensus astronomy, evolution, history, and geology.